Welcome to this PowerPoint on Religion, Values and Ethics, meeting the legislative requirements for RVE. The aims of this PowerPoint are to provide a starting point to reflect on your current knowledge of religion, values and ethics, where it sits within the curriculum for Wales, and to consider your current RVE provision within your own school and setting. You'll have an opportunity to consider your next steps to develop your current RVE planning and provision in line with the mandatory and statutory requirements. The specific aims are to provide clarification over the terms mandatory and statutory, and therefore the requirements of RVE in the curriculum for Wales, clarification over the meaning of objective, critical and pluralistic, identifying concepts within the RVE and humanities AOLE, prompt reflection for current and future provision of RVE within your own school and setting. Take a moment to consider these two questions for your own position in school. Firstly, what do you already know about religion, values and ethics? Secondly, what do you currently do for your planning and provision for RVE? It may be useful to jot down a few ideas and able to reflect on these initial responses when you complete the PowerPoint. Hopefully, you will find developments in your knowledge for the first question, and secondly, be able to reflect on your current provision against the gained knowledge and requirements to make refinements moving forwards. Religion, Values and Ethics, or RVE, is the title of this academic subject within the curriculum for Wales. Previously, there was Religious Education, or RE. It is important to identify and to use the title of the subject accurately when planning and delivering your curriculum and delivering it to your learners. It may be an appropriate time to pause and to check your school's website for accuracy of the use of the terms, for example, RVE in the narrative and the documents. Some websites might use RSE when it should be using RVE. If this is the case, please inform the person in charge of the website. Many people confuse the academic subject of RVE that sits within the humanities area of learning experience, the AOLE, with RSE, which is Relationships and Sexuality Education. This is a cross-cutting theme. They are totally different and need to be accurately referenced. If you have any questions about this, please speak to your improvement partner or engage with the RVE or the RSE advisors at CSE. This is an exciting and pivotal time for the academic subject of RVE. For years, RE has sat outside of the curriculum. It is now one of the 5 academic subjects within the humanities AOLE. To reflect our ever-evolving society, locally, nationally and globally, and the pluralistic range of beliefs, convictions, values, philosophies and ethics that exist, the subject now reflects the interdisciplinary nature of the subject in its title. The subject has been rebranded to fit the 21st century Wales and beyond. Firstly, we need to establish and develop as needed your knowledge of the legal requirements and responsibilities for religion, values and ethics within the curriculum for Wales. RVE now sits within the humanities area of learning experience within the curriculum for Wales. It is one of the 5 subjects: RVE, History, Geography, Social Studies and Business Studies. RVE is mandatory for all learners aged 3 to 16 years. The terms mandatory and statutory will be explained later on. This is a change as the previous RE Religious Education curriculum was for pupils aged 5 to 18 years. So if you have 3 to 5-year-old learners within your school and setting, then the RVE is expected to be taught. There is a slide towards the end of the PowerPoint that has been written with non-maintained nursery settings in mind and is found in the RVE guidance on Hub. This slide may assist you to plan for your maintained setting and to give you some clarification and guidance for 3 to 5-year-olds or pre-progression step 1 learners. It is important to note that there is no parental right to request that a child is withdrawn from the academic subject of RVE within the curriculum for Wales. This is a change from the legacy religious education. Welsh Government decided to make RVE mandatory for all learners. For this reason, it is important that RVE is planned and delivered in an objective, critical, and pluralistic way. There is more about these three terms later on in the PowerPoint. There is a rollout of the curriculum for Wales. Secondary schools should be aware of the legacy curriculum requirements until the full rollout of the curriculum Wales to Year 11. What are the legal requirements for RVE in the curriculum for Wales? Please be aware that there is a section on Hub that provides the legal requirements under the heading Legislation. It is important when planning and delivering for RVE that you always consider the following. RVE must reflect the fact that the religious traditions in Wales are in the main Christian, while taking account of the teaching and the practices of the other principal religions represented in Wales. The curriculum does not stipulate which are the principal religions represented in Wales. The census data from 2021 may assist you with this. It is important to consider which principal religions you will consider for your learners. Consider the learners in your school, the religions represented within your local community, nationally and beyond. This is a significant change. Previously, you were told what to cover, so for example, Judaism at Key Stage 2, or Hinduism at Key Stage 3, in addition to Christianity. This prescriptive nature has been removed and allows for individual schools and settings, with a caveat to consider local, national and international contexts as cross-cutting theme. Otherwise, if you're not in a religiously diverse area, there may be a tendency to offer a narrow RVE curriculum only reflecting the locality. RVE must also reflect the fact that a range of non-religious philosophical convictions are held in Wales. For example, atheism, agnosticism, humanism. This is in addition to the legacy curriculum. Within Wales, in the 2021 census, there were 46.5% of people identifying and self-identifying as non-religious or having no religion. So what do you understand by these terms? Atheist, agnostic, humanist? It would be useful for you to research these terms and to clarify your knowledge. For more information or advice on non-religious philosophical convictions, please contact your local advisor or see your consortia website. This slide provides some information about the non-religious philosophical convictions. It is not simply opinions or ideas. According to the legislation for RVE on Hub, non-religious philosophical convictions denotes views that attain a certain level of cogency, seriousness, cohesion, and importance. The curriculum for Wales provides some examples from where the law courts have decided a belief is a philosophical conviction within the meaning of the European Court of Human Rights. Humanism, atheism, secularism, agnosticism, and skepticism. Pacifism and the principled opposition to military service. Veganism and opposition to the manipulation of products of animal origin or tested on animals. We encourage practitioners to ensure that their curriculum design encourages learners to understand the breadth and depth of beliefs and values that exist within Wales, both religious and non-religious. Exploring how people with different beliefs and values respond to big questions may be one type of approach to do this. The curriculum for Wales does not define these three terms for RVE in the framework or guidance. How would you define the terms objective, critical, and pluralistic? The following meanings are not official but may support your own knowledge and understanding. Objective, not trying to convert, not saying that one religion is right or superior. Neutrality. Critical, asking questions, challenging ideas, developing own views and judgments. Pluralistic, a range of faiths and beliefs. Diversity. The law states that RVE should reflect the religious traditions in Wales are in the main Christian, while taking account of the teaching and practices of the other principal religions represented in Wales. B. A range of non-religious philosophical convictions are held in Wales. Pluralism can be between religions and other non-religious worldviews, or pluralism can be explored within a religion, e.g. the denominational similarities or differences in beliefs, teachings, practices, ethics, and interpretations of religious sources of authority. One example of pluralism within a religion could be to explore the diversity within Christianity. the various denominations, for example, Catholics, Church in Wales, Orthodox, Baptist, etc. Please ensure that your RVE provision in planning and delivery is neutral, non-biased and non-confessional. Audit your lesson activities to ensure they are appropriate, critical, objective and pluralistic. Focus on the learning about and reflecting on a range of religions, beliefs, practices, values, ethics, faiths and philosophical convictions. Remember, in your RVE you are learning about, just as you would learn about the Tudors or the Victorians. If you expect or plan for participation within a religious belief or practice, it becomes collective worship, as this is confessional. Focus in RVE on the broader learning about faiths and beliefs. For schools that have a religious character, there are additional requirements. For voluntary aided schools that have a religious character, the Act requires that the teaching and learning secured for learners to be that for which the provision accords with the school's trust deeds, or its religion or denomination. Links to the additional guidance are on this PowerPoint slide. The Church in Wales RVE guidance and the Catholic Education Services. For foundation and voluntary control schools that have a religious character, schools should ensure that the teaching and learning to be designed have in regard to the locally agreed syllabus. Welsh Government produced these posters to explain the meaning behind two important terms relating to the curriculum for Wales and religion, values and ethics. Mandatory. The Curriculum and Assessment Wales Act 2021 puts mandatory duties on schools, things they are legally required to do. When the guidance talks about things schools must do, it is talking about mandatory legal requirements. Statutory. The rest of the Curriculum for Wales guidance, like the descriptions of learning or the design in your curriculum sections, is the statutory guidance. Schools must have due regard to this guidance when carrying out their duties, which mean they must read it carefully and should follow it. But if after careful consideration they have a good and clear reason for doing something differently, they can do so. When the guidance talks about things schools should do, have regard to, or things they must consider, it's talking about statutory guidance. Take a moment to reflect. Consider if you're using the terms correctly and following the requirements associated with mandatory and statutory in relation to RVE. The locally agreed syllabus. Each of the 5 local authorities have their own locally agreed syllabus. None of the 5 local authorities within the CSE region have added any significant levels of prescription regarding the content, curriculum time, or the nature of RVE. They are not in the same format for a syllabus that you would have been used to for the 2008 curriculum and religious education. Any questions about your locally agreed syllabus, you can contact the regional SACRE or SAC clerk. When planning for your RVE curriculum, there are multiple materials that you need to consider. Firstly, RVE is one of the 5 subjects within the Humanities AOLE, and it contributes to the Humanities Statements of What Matters. The concepts that are in the Humanities Statements of What Matters relate to RVE and are mandatory. The descriptions of learning include RVE knowledge, skills and experiences. These are statutory. The principles of progression are also mandatory. Increasing effectiveness as a learner, increasing breadth and depth of knowledge, deepening understanding of the ideas and disciplines within areas, refinement and growing sophistication in the use and application of skills, making connections and transferring learning into new contexts. Secondly, there is additional RVE guidance on HUB and your locally agreed syllabus. You must have regard for these as they are both statutory. To have regard is to means that you have a good reason for deviating from it. Thirdly, if you're a school with a religious character, a voluntary aided school, you will have the additional denominational guidance as well. The 5 Humanities Statements of What Matters provide key concepts that are mandatory. Take a moment to pause and reflect to recall your prior knowledge on these. Here are the 5 mandatory statements of what matters. As they are mandatory, schools are legally required to do these. These can be found on HUB. Within each of the 5 statements of what matters in humanities, there are concepts. Can you identify the concepts within this 3rd statement of what matters? You may wish to do a similar exercise with the other 4 statements of what matters to help identify the concepts. Did you identify a similar list of concepts to the ones highlighted on this slide? If you read them again, what can you notice about the last sentence or section at the bottom of each of the statements of what matters? This is for humanities only. You'll find a summary section that identifies the main concepts within the statements of what matters. Caution though, as it does miss out some key concepts to be aware of and therefore plan accordingly. For example, Carnarvon is missing in the summary sections for the statements of what matters 3 and 4 and will need to be included. The statement of what matters provides the key ideas, principles and concepts in which learners should be making progress. Consequently, it is very important to ensure that you and your team have a clear mutual understanding of those key ideas in each of the statements. As you know, the statements are linked and will not be taught necessarily as separate entities. That makes it more important to be very clear about exactly which concepts, ideas each statement covers, so that you can ensure that your curriculum design focuses on these concepts and ensure that the learners make progress in them. As you can see, the last sentence of each of the statements tries to summarize the key ideas and concepts in each statement, but please remember the cautionary note from the previous slides. This slide has copied and pasted the summary sections, the last sentence from each of the 5 humanities statements of what matters, so you can see them all on one page together. Using the final sentence summaries from the humanities statements of what matters, consider how do these concepts currently feature in your own humanities and RVE curriculum. Are there any gaps? How could you navigate to plan to cover these gaps if you have identified any? Remember that these concepts are across the learning continuum and are mandatory. In the RVE guidance on Hub, there are additional RVE discipline-specific concepts, another layer in addition to the humanities concepts, although some of them do repeat. These are provided in the RVE guidance on Hub. They are statutory, so practitioners need to pay regard to them. A reminder that these concepts are also for across the learning continuum and not just for primary or secondary school settings. Perhaps you can do a task similar to the one before. Can you identify and highlight the key concepts for RVE that are stated in the RVE guidance on Hub on this slide? Here we have some highlighted RVE concepts from the slide before. Were you able to recognise and acknowledge the RVE concepts? Please remember that these are in addition to the humanities concepts found within the 5 statements of what matters. Remember, the humanities statements of what matter concepts are mandatory, they are legally required, and these additional RVE concepts are another layer that are required for practitioners to pay regard to because they're in the guidance. On this slide, you will find the 5 statements of what matters summary list of concepts. In addition, the RVE concepts from the RVE guidance have been plotted alongside the 5 statements of what matter concepts for humanities, so that you have both the humanities and the RVE concepts all together on one page. It may be useful to print this off and to keep this in your planner. In the RVE guidance, which is statutory on Hub, you'll find some additional support. There are 7 sub-lenses. These headings sound familiar from the 2008 curriculum for those of you who are familiar with them. They can be used to support your RVE planning and delivery. Please note that these sub-lenses are interconnected and are not intended to be separate units or topics. Please bear in mind that the 7 sub-lenses may not cover all of the concepts that relate to RVE within the statements of what matters. There are multiple approaches to your curriculum design. What is important is that you consider the why. What is the purpose for the learning for your learners in your individual school? Once you've established the purpose and the why, there are different approaches to how you can plan and deliver RVE. So RVE may be delivered as a standalone subject. It may be as part of the humanities approach, where with the other subjects within humanities, doesn't have to be all 5 all of the time together. It may be history and RVE at one particular time, or history and geography at another, or it may be a mixed AOLE approach, where there may be other AOLEs that are relevant and can be used together along with RVE. There isn't a standardised fit or a recommended approach. In fact, some schools may approach their planning and their delivery of RVE as a mixture of these approaches, deciding which is the most suitable and the most beneficial to their learners for the particular learning, the knowledge, the skills and experience that they want their learners to acquire. Information for non-maintained nursery settings found in the RVE guidance on Hub is presented on this slide. RVE provision in a funded non-maintained nursery setting should be considered as part of an overarching holistic approach to learning and development. It may also provide useful information and ideas to maintain schools and settings. Spirituality is a whole school responsibility and not just the humanities or RVE lead, just as it was before. It is interesting to note that it is only mentioned in the RVE guidance. It informs that spirituality may be religious or non-religious and provides examples of how spiritual development may be expressed. Currently, ESTIN may also comment on spiritual, moral, social and cultural development, or SMSC, in their inspection reports. Time for reflection. Time to gather your thoughts on the RVE curriculum to date. It may be useful to refer back to your initial thoughts or notes from the beginning of this PowerPoint. Have you progressed with RVE and not religious education, or RE, in your curriculum to date? What are your quick wins for developing RVE within your humanities curriculum? What are your key issues or challenges or areas that you would like to focus on moving forwards? What are your next steps for religion, values and ethics? As a practitioner, a senior leadership team, or as a school? For your current and future planning and curriculum provision? Have you worked with your cluster schools? Do you have a shared understanding of progression and an agreed list of non-negotiables for humanities and RVE? Do you need to initiate cluster work or ask for additional sessions with your cluster to collaborate for RVE as well as the wider humanities subjects? Sometimes RVE is often left until the end. If you require bespoke support for RVE and/or humanities, please raise this through your CSE improvement partner, who can inform and instruct the curriculum advisors for humanities and RVE.